Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa, where, as you can see, it's getting damn cold again. And welcome for our beautiful Every By Tuesday. We have our gorgeous Jessica, the cryptid huntress. Welcome back. How are you, honey?
Hey, I am so glad to be here, and I'm good. I'm good. I've just been a little busy. I'm out here chasing Bigfoot and Dogman around the mountains and in the woods.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Hello to everybody in the chat. Nice to see you guys here again. Girl in the Gong, walking lightly. Linda, Jojo, Waken, really good to see you guys. And I'm really looking forward to, because I just happened to catch the ass end of one of your shows the other day. Actually, it wasn't so much the ass end because it was a nice long show. And it was about 2.5 hours or over 2 hours anyway. So I happened to have insomnia on one of the nights as usual. And I decided I didn't feel like what was going on in my head. And then I found you guys. It was so cool. Yay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a fun show. That was Saturday. We were talking about werewolf Vikings or Viking werewolves and the Berserkers. Yeah, that was a great show.
That would be a good one to do when Caleb comes on again. Yeah, because he, I know, is also very knowledgeable on that topic. Anyway, but today it's girl talk, so here we are. And we are talking about the mysterious moon-eyed people. So I'd never actually heard of them. And I must say it's so crazy, because obviously I research these sort of topics. So stuff comes up on my feed. And about a day before I saw your show or the advertisement, I had seen this moon-eyed people thing on YouTube. And I thought, what the heck is that? I actually wanted to ask you guys. So here we are. Talking about these mysterious moon-eyed people. So, yeah, Jessica, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, well, I'd heard about the moon-eyed people for a long time because I live in the southeastern region of the United States, and we have a pretty big presence of like Cherokee Native Americans in North Georgia and in North Carolina. A lot of the places that I do my Bigfoot field research, there's a lot of legends and lore that go on around these parts in the Appalachian Mountains. Right. And so I was really excited when I found out I had been given a coordinate remote viewing target of the moon-eyed people. Because this is something I'd heard about for a long time. And from what I understood, the moon-eyed people were passed down from Cherokee legend of a race of very white-skinned, pale-skinned people that had big, and I was always told they were little people, like tiny in stature. Little people that, just really little. I didn't know a lot about them until after I'd remote viewed whatever this was, because these are blind targets, so I don't know what I'm getting here. but I
must say you're pretty damn spot on. So it's amazing to actually see what you do.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, according to the Cherokee, the moon-eyed people were a race of people who they lived in the mountains. They would come out at night mostly, like they only on like a cloudy day, whenever the sun wasn't too bright, because they couldn't see in the sunlight very well. They had big eyes. I'm assuming big pupils. Okay, probably, but just kind of big eyes, and their skin was so pale. It was almost like they lived in the cave systems. They lived underground, and I just assumed maybe they were some sort of race of extraterrestrial or something, or some kind of subterranean race. Because some of my teammates had taken some videos up in North Carolina of little people before, and we just kind of, or I assumed personally, that they could have been the moon-eyed people. But now I'm learning that they actually weren't that little. They're actually a little bit larger. And Caleb Jade was actually in the live chat during that show that I did about a week ago or so. And he was saying, I think that he was saying that they were tall. They were actually bigger, but I don't feel like they were like real muscular. Do you know what I mean? They weren't hulking figures.
Like they're more slender in stature.
Mm-hmm.
You see the stone carvings or the soapstone carvings of them. They're about 3 feet tall. They've sort of depicted them at about. I mean that's like half of me, a little less than half of me, you know. What is that considered? I mean, is that considered, I guess is that considered, for us, it's considered small.
I mean,
Maybe that's not what they really look like, eh?
Yeah, 3 feet would be kind of short. Okay, that'd be considered a little person. To me, that's like half of my height. So just about. So that would be a little. But here's the giveaway here.
We would not go on a date with
No, probably I don't know. Not with a moon-eyed person there. Well, they ended up being pretty fierce, actually. Okay, and so they actually they went to war with the Cherokee. And here's something that I find really interesting is that, you know, here in the United States, we're taught in our history books in school that the first people that ever lived on this land were the indigenous people, the Native Americans. And the story of the Moon-eyed people changes that. And you and I both know that history is not what we've been taught, and it's not what's in our books.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Because all the information I've been listening to and reading on this, I mean, all the Cherokee people that got there first are saying, no, there was a race of exactly as you described, this white people there before them who couldn't see during the day. They could only see at night. And as you say, quite fierce. Isn't there a wall or something? Wasn't there a wall that was separating them from the indigenous people?
Well, okay, so it said that so we're told, yes, I don't know if it was separating them from the Cherokee. I'm not sure, but they did build fortification walls out of the rocks. And there are pictures of those. There are these rocks all over North Carolina and near Judaculla Rock. We can talk about Judaculla Rock too, which is a huge petroglyph. It's a rock with a bunch of petroglyphs on it that's there in the Cherokee area, Cherokee, North Carolina, actually. I've been there before with 2 elders of the Cherokee tribe up there who took me there to show us the actual rock where it is said that Judaculla, or AKA Sukalu, who was a giant, used to guard that area. And well, some people say that he's a Sasquatch, that he was a Sasquatch. Other people say that he was a giant. I think he was a giant Sasquatch. But he had like the throne. Yeah, right. He had if you go there, this Judaculla rock is this huge rock. The interpretation is up for debate. Okay, but Chief David, who I was with, has written a book about it. And it's actually, according to him, it tells a story of the creation and like Star Wars. Okay, because he claims to be of the star people. And when we were there actually camping out on top of the mountain beside his home, he called in the sky ships over Cashers while we were there, which are spaceships. 4 spaceships came out as he called them in. I watched it. I was there.
Wow.
And he got his staff with a crystal on it, and he called them in somehow. And we had spaceships surrounding our mountain the entire weekend at night while I was there. And this is right down the road from Judaculla Rock.
That is insane. But they're definitely connected. I mean, you know, it's well known. I don't want to call it a fact. Maybe it is a fact that they are very spiritually connected to the otherworldly creatures.
Yeah.
Wanted to ask you, because that's also our albino people descendants, which is interesting because being the albino race, I mean, it's funny how that is, right? So I don't know what your take on that is.
Yes. Well, okay. Well, let me kind of rewind a little bit, and we'll get into the history of the history. I learned so many history lessons when I was doing this. When I was doing the research on this after we did this target. Okay, so we're told that Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492. And that's it. That's history. Okay, that's what I've always been taught. Well, there was another gentleman who came to what we know now as North America, the United States. He came here, I think it was in 1170, and his name was Prince Madoc. Prince Madoc. And he actually, okay, so this is interesting, right? Because they say that he landed where Alabama is, which is right beside where I live in Georgia. So he landed, came through the Gulf of Mexico. He landed in Alabama and he trekked up north through Alabama. Well, I find it interesting because the crest that he had a dragon on it. And I just recently was doing a dogman hunt in Alabama, and there were, I ran into and I was shown a petrified dragon while I was in Alabama. The same place that the books that actually are written about him are called, there's a book called Forgotten Dragons. Okay,
Wow.
so I don't know if there's a connection, but I find it very interesting. Definitely find it interesting. Yeah, for sure. So, well, he came through, and of course, Alabama is in the southeastern United States, and the rumors are, the legend goes, he actually brought the Moon-eyed people with him. Like those are descendants of his. Okay, that's what people, that's what they say. Okay, but I don't know if I believe that. I don't know about that. Because when I was remote viewing this, not knowing what this target is, I was getting information that whatever this is an ancient civilization that I was remote viewing, ancient civilization, and it's a hidden culture. The things that I was getting actually towards the end, and they live underground. I did get that in my data too. But towards the end of the data, I was picking up that these are, I think I wrote down star seeds. Okay, I actually wrote star seed. Yeah, I wrote star seed down.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what I was thinking. It was amazing because when I was watching, I was like, these are star seeds. And I mean, there's such a whole big topic on its own about where does the human DNA really come from, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that in itself is a 10 series topic or show rather. And I mean, I've got my ideas about that as well. But I think it's so true because, we cannot imagine that no one has been here before us, right? Or we haven't been around before, right? So this makes perfect sense because it makes a lot of sense because for me, when we realize, we have been seeded, our DNA has been seeded by our forefathers and mothers. And who have they been? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the human being is such a unique being, which is why they all fight over us. Have we asked ourselves, really, if we think about that, why? It's not just one tribe fighting over us, it's all of them. So to me, it's almost like it's our parents. All of them are our parents because they all seeded their DNA on some level and created us. So it's like they're all kind of fighting about who gets paternal or maternal rights, if you know what I'm saying. To me, that's like, I just cut it down in a nutshell. So for me, when I hear about these stories about these beings, and especially the ancient, the cultural tribes, the original tribes that came here, that have had such a strong connection to these beings, right? And if we look at our original tribes as well, not just the Native Americans, I mean, they had wisdom that came from somewhere. Yes. Was it able to be manipulated? For sure. For sure, they could manipulate it. And the dark forces did, because energy is pliable. You can manipulate it and turn it and contort it into whatever you want to, right? But only when it's in its true essence is it going to remain. Otherwise, it's not. It's going to be, crazy. So for us to think that we are here alone and there has been nothing before us, and also, and I think in one of Caleb's shows he mentioned, what seems to us as magic here actually is high technology. It's technology that we haven't even come across before. So we look at these things, they're all so strongly connected, right? That to me, it just opens my mind even more to think about this. It's an amazing topic to actually explore just in your mind, right? If you allow your mind just to open to perceive what anything could be. The possibilities are endless, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I think that it was really cool because I went to Cherokee about, it was at least 10 years ago. It was probably, I'm going to say about 12 years ago at this point is when I was there. It was before I was married, before I had a kid. So it had to have been 12 years ago. When I was there, I didn't understand the foundation that was laying for all the stuff that I'm going to be that I talk about today. I never expected to be public with all my Bigfoot research and all the things I was doing. I was actually up there just go hang out with Chief David and his friends, but I was also there to learn about Bigfoot and some of the, cultural traditions they have there in regard to the star people and to Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and things like that too. So I got a healthy dose of a lot of education when I was up there. But when we went to see Judicola Rock, it's out in the middle of a cow pasture, basically, and it's just a gigantic, huge rock. That rock is not even native, I don't think, to that area. The type of rock that it is, but it has, I think, like 100 I don't remember how many petroglyphs on it, but they do deal with the star people and potentially the moon-eyed people are on this rock. Now, this rock is ancient, very ancient. I mean, the moon-eyed people could have carved it for all I know. But Judicola or Tsukalu was actually a fierce giant who guarded this rock. And if you go there in the same pasture, you can see it's called Judicola's throne. And it's a bunch of big boulders that look like a chair. And that's where he used to sit. And the legends go that he would guard it. And whenever the Cherokee hunters would come onto that land, he would attack them to keep them away. And maybe, I guess, from the rock, I don't know, they just keep them away. And he would unalive people. He would kill people that would get near that, get on his land. He also took up a human girlfriend, though, too. So, he had a job to do. So anyways, Chief David claims that he is of the star people, he said. So I think it's super interesting that these traditions have been passed down. The oral tradition of the Moon-Eye people have been passed down. But the part that I didn't know about, there's a lot of parts I didn't know about. But one of the parts I did not know about is that the Moon-Eye people lived here before the Cherokee came onto this land. They showed up at some point. The Moon-Eyed people, as they called them, already had a well-established civilization here. And the Cherokee fought them and ran them off the land.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What they were saying about the fort there, because in one of the podcasts I was actually listening to, it's like they were saying even now or then, it was like the white against the native people, right? And that fort, that wall, is actually what separated them. But if they look at how that fort was built, and how it was aligned, like with the way that the sun and the moon obviously moves and shifts and does a thing, and they were able to foretell rain, the time, as well as whether the crops were going to be good. But that's how the ancient people, did it as well. I mean, the Bushmen people or the Khoisan people that are still around here, a few of them. But that's everything was read via. And the pyramids in Egypt, I mean, you read a lot of stories about that. So it makes sense that they were an ancient culture aligning with nature and God and just, learning to read how everything moves.
Yeah, that's right. And, and the Moon-Eye people have been referred to throughout history, too. Even Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers, requested that he called them the descendants of Murdoch, or Madoc, excuse me, not Murdoch, it's Madoc. That's that Welsh prince that was said to have come here and basically discovered this world. He was Welsh. So, and I'm Welsh too, by the way. So yeah, a lot of people didn't know that until recently. So, but they say that he requested that the Lewis and Clark expedition, which was a very famous expedition here in what is now the U.S., find the descendants of Madoc. All right, so they were known about very well through here, but they were after they had the battle, they had some wars with the Cherokee and they were run off. They left, from what I understand, they left peacefully. Like they left and decided to go somewhere else. I do believe it was probably underground. Okay, because
Yes.
they were already living underground. But people
Yes.
still report sightings of the Moon-eyed people today around North Carolina. So there are still sightings. People claim they're probably the Moon-eyed people. And some people,
What they're doing, do we know? I mean, were they working? Were they mining? Were they farmers? Were they, I mean, I'm trying to imagine, were they just roaming around? You know, what were they doing? Did they have animals?
yeah, well, from what I understand, it was a functioning society. They had it was just a full society, just like, I mean, I don't say just like ours, you know, but any,
Yeah.
like any kind of ancient civilization.
It makes me think as well, because what I was listening to was they were saying they spoke in runes, right? Runes. Got to say that right. Runes, right? They spoke in runes. So if we look, I mean, runes are definitely one of the most ancient forms of communication, right? And I mean, they're still around, but then they would come from the Norse Viking type era, and who's blonde haired with blue eyes, right, and fair skin,
and red hair too. You know, and that's, and that's another thing that we have here too, is that we have the remains of the red-haired giants as well.
Yes.
We found remains. Oh, I didn't find them, but other people found them. There's remains in Lovelock Cave, which is over in Nevada, not too far from Pyramid Lake, which is another anomalous area as well, with mermaids and water babies that we've talked about before. It's not far from there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, there's actually another person. There are people who did a lot of exploration throughout the New World, you know, over here in the U.S. now. Like there's a writer named Benjamin Burton, who is a botanist and a professor, and he wrote about the Moon-eyed people too. But see, he actually considered them, because he encountered them, or maybe he didn't. No, he didn't encounter them. The Cherokee told him about them,
right.
But he considered these people to be albinos. Okay, like having albinism, I think is how you say that. Which I think is, I don't know if it's different than, they may have been like an albino race, actually. I mean, who knows? Because they could not see during the daytime. Well, they could see, but it would just hurt their eyes. Okay, hurt their eyes. And being a very light skin, and you know, you go into, I've done some cave exploration, and I did one, let's just say skinwalker investigation in a cave last year. And everything that comes out of a cave, it's a little scary going in those caves, but we have something called pale crawlers. And I think the guys did encounter what they consider to be a pale crawler in the back of the cave. And that's something that's very pale skinned, and it looks like an ET almost, but it kind of crawls on all four legs.
Like with sucky feet. Has it got like sucky feet? Does it go on walls?
It crawls. I don't know if it has I don't know if it doesn't have like suction cups on its feet, but I don't know. I think so.
I'm like,
it's like a spider almost, you know what I mean? But two legs and two arms. Yeah, there's some creepy stuff down there, but you can imagine if there's a race of people that don't see the sunlight very often, don't have any kind of light, if they're living down in the caves, they would be.
When you do your remote viewing, I know you work with coordinates, and I know that you often work with blind targets. So I'm interested to know, though, do you actually see things physically, or do you just get a sense, maybe words, whatever, or do you actually get visuals as well of things?
All of it.
Right.
I just collect a lot of data is what it is. And so as I'm getting into these targets, and I go through the different stages of remote viewing, I start off doing like ideograms and automatic writing, and that's when all the information starts flooding in. So I'm having to take note of all of my senses, and that's my hearing, visuals, any kind of taste, smell, anything, any kind of feeling that I get. I write it down all in charts. I write every single thing that I experience down in charts, in different stages of my data. And there's somewhere to write down everything. And when I get done with my sessions, I have page after page after page of data. And I know exactly what it all means because I've written it down in my charts and put it in categories. Okay, so I can tell you if I was feeling a certain way, or if I was sensing that another person was feeling this way, or I was seeing something through someone else's eyes, or anything. I'm a lot of times I smell things. Like it's just like being a medium, right? It's just like kind of being a physical medium, or smelling cigar smoke. If you're in a haunted house and there's a man that used to smoke cigars, that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Or perfumes. Yeah. Or if you smell, if you're dealing with cryptids and you smell poop or something, I don't know, you could smell like a skunk ape and it stinks. That kind of stuff does happen during those targets. Yeah.
It's very interesting. Wow. Yeah. Wow, Jessica, it's like amazing. And I wanted to just say as well about them.
I did pick up that they're still alive. I did pick up during the data that they're still here today, living underground somewhere. They're underground. I actually wrote down Alabama too. So, I mean, they could very well be in that region because the Appalachian Mountains go all the way down into North Georgia. They stretch up from Maine, which is the right where, like in Canada, at the northeastern part of the United States, and they stretch all the way down the East Coast, kind of through West Virginia, Tennessee, and even they end in Alabama. Okay, and that was actually in my data. I do believe they could be there, but let me tell you, there is so much weirdness and high strangeness in the Appalachian Mountains. You would be shocked.
Yeah. I don't think so. Yeah, I've been sightseeing there before. Sightseeing. Yeah. No, it's crazy. And there's a lot of activity there. It must be a real hotspot. And I'm just thinking like energetically as well, for all of that activity to be going on there, whether it's natural or whether it's forced by the creatures of the night, there's a lot of stuff that goes on there for sure.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times when I'm doing remote viewing of targets that deal with, cryptids or anything that's going on in the Appalachian Mountains, a lot of times I pick up on underground facilities, like deep underground military bases. It's a constant, okay, on a lot of those targets, including the Brown Mountain lights. Okay, there's actually a mountain in the Appalachian Mountain Range. It's called Brown Mountain. And for years, for a century at least, more, there have been these lights that have been reported there that just kind of show up out of nowhere. And they back in the like early 1900s, they used to claim, people would claim that those were actually train lights, okay, like locomotives and things, like riding through the mountains. But people, you want to logically think, well, okay, well, what could this logically be? This has got to be, it's got to be something like a train. But whenever there was a flood or there's some kind of storm and the train was knocked out, or they couldn't ride the trains through there anymore, people were still seeing those lights in the mountains, and they're like ghost lights, orbs, and they have tails and tracers on them and stuff, and they've been around for, like I said, centuries, a long time. But when I was tasked with that.
So it's not any funny business that's happening from the military underneath there, right? It's actual genuine creepy things.
Well, this is interesting because when I remember when I had remote viewed that, what I was seeing was one of those balls that you could buy, especially back in the 90s, and it looked like it was a ball with like static electricity in it, and you put your hand on it and the electricity would go to your hand, one of those balls. And yeah. I was seeing that, but I kept getting data that involved Nikola Tesla and Tesla's like free energy stuff. And I was picking up on something that was going on, like an operation that was going on underneath the mountain, like an active operation of some kind. It was almost industrial that was going on. And the lights were a result of whatever was happening underneath the mountain.
Absolutely. That would make sense to me. You know, it's all well and good for them to create this creepy story and scare people away, right? Because they know exactly how to do that as well. Honestly, I mean, and I'm not saying this stuff because I do think there's a lot of hybrids and these transhuman chimeras and all these things for sure. But I think there's also a lot of stuff that the powers that be create to scare us because they know they can. We're scared of the unknown, and the deeper and the darker and the more daunting it is, you know, the more we're going to run away from it type thing. Like, leave it there. The government says we're not allowed to touch it. They know better. It's crazy and now when we start uncovering all of this stuff, we're seeing, and I think more and more, I don't know what your take on that is, that we're going to actually see that a lot of the stuff is a psyop. And it's sort of for us to sort of discern, right, what is true and what is not true. But I do believe it exists, obviously, right? I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, well, something else that I found out is that it seems as though whenever people start getting privy to whatever's going on, they start questioning the narrative. Even back then, in regard to the Brown Mountain Lights, people were sent in. There was a gentleman that was sent in to talk to, I think he was sent in to talk to people in the community. He either worked for the railroad company or for the government or both. And he was the one that was like, oh, it's the railroad, it's the trains. And there's always like a disinformation agent that's
exactly
to change the narrative and to sway the opinion and the beliefs of whoever's involved.
Right.
That's just from doing research. Okay. That's just from researching. It's pretty easy to come across that kind of information. So, and people believe them. So
I agree. It's very interesting, you know, more and more we're seeing these things. And I mean, and definitely there's all these underground facilities there. There's no doubt in my mind. And there's a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of testing on animals and stuff that goes on down there, and in the most disgusting ways, not in the ways that we are led to believe that, and that in itself is depraved enough, right? But and I'm sure that they're creating viruses and stuff down there as well. That's my take on that, on what they're doing there. I mean, I think there's so many facilities there, but that's the one that that's where I would put my money on, there being where they're creating this new dodgy monkey thing going on. The monkey business.
The monkey business. That's right.
Well,
you know, I just glanced over at the chat, and someone had mentioned the out of Africa theory. Okay, well, I wanted to actually mention this today because when we're talking about the moon-eyed people, I was privileged and honored to be able to interview Evan and Stephen Strong out of Australia, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they came on. They're archaeologists. It's a father and a son. And they're archaeologists out of Australia, and they have the out of Australia theory, and where they say that actually life was seeded in Australia, not Africa. Okay, life didn't begin in, humans didn't begin in Africa. It was Australia, and humankind was seeded there by like star seeds. Okay, like the ETs basically, and they in their possession they have a moon-eyed person's skull, they say, and so they said that they had been persecuted by their government there to the degree to where they couldn't leave their house for a while.
Wow.
Because they have all of these through their findings, they have all of these ancient rocks and artifacts that contain alien technology on them, and they're ancient, right? And they have this moon-eyed skull. Well, guess who contacted them to ask if they could examine and hold on to their moon-eyed skull? You'll never guess. The Smithsonian. The Smithsonian.
Wow.
And they told them to bug off. They said no, you can't have it. And I think that's when they started they got the pressure applied to them as far as having artifacts that they weren't supposed to have, that changed the narrative of creation of humankind. So Yeah.
Oh,
They're worth looking into. Look up Evan and Steven. They go on podcasts and shows and stuff sometimes, but they're a very interesting duo to talk to. And that was one of my favorite interviews ever that I did with them.
I will definitely look into that. I'll check with you afterwards. It would be very interesting to hear what they have to say for sure. And it makes sense, I know there's I mean, who knows? I think there's so much more evidence on the rise now about where we began and who began, whatever. And I think we're going to see more and more of this evidence surfacing, that it's probably not the way we've been taught or what we've been told, right? We've been given a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, man, blank mind right now. But it suits their purpose, right? It suits their purpose. So they paint us this little picture, and that's how it is, and it looks very beautiful, and it's a storybook that you can tell your kid. That's how Earth began, and you can make it up with all sorts of things. But now, as we know, the energy is changing and the changing of the times, all the bullshit is coming to the surface. We can't move into the higher dimensions or frequencies, if you want to call it that, when you're still vibrating on that nasty low vibrating stuff. So the more we choose truth, the more truth is going to be revealed to us. So I look forward to what the next few years hold, that's for sure.
I know. Well, we are the disclosure, because we're never going to be told the full truth. We're told what the narrative is by the people who have been in charge for the past century or so. Okay. And so that's really all that we know. I mean, that's not all we know, but I'm just saying that's all I knew. I mean, I'm glad that I'm awake, and I've always been awake. I'm more awake now than I've ever been. But even with my kid, teaching my kid all this stuff too. I'm sure he's getting in arguments with his history teacher every day. I don't know. When it comes to this, I told him we have to just back off, back down. Okay. And just know that this is what they know. So that's why they're teaching you this stuff, and we know a little extra. My father actually gives a monthly lecture with the Historical Society in the county where I grew up, where he lives. And it's so funny because whenever he's practicing, like he practiced one of his latest speeches with me, one of his presentations. And as he's going over the presentation with me, I keep interjecting. I keep saying, well, that Davy Crockett actually shot a Bigfoot. Okay. And so I'm interjecting Bigfoot information and cryptid information with all of his historical accounts. So it's actually really funny. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I just hope he invites me one day. Yeah.
He's lucky that he's got a mama bear like you, that's for sure.
It's fun. It's fun. But we need to talk about these things. It's so important that we do, and we put it out there so that other people can dig a little deeper and get more information, and we spread it.
Exactly. And that's we've got to normalize this stuff. For me, it's almost normal already. I mean, the shitty stuff that happens is almost normal as well. And I mean, it'll never make me not feel disgusted or sad or whatever and enraged at times. But it's when I speak to people who have no idea about that, it's like, what do you mean you don't know what it's just, for me, in my world, it's normal. It's like the world we're living in. But it's crazy because so many people, and as you say, the more we talk about this and share this information, the more people are going to, as you say, be inspired to dig deeper.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And because, like I said, we are the disclosure. And I don't know a whole lot about a lot of stuff. I mean, I just know my research. I know the remote viewing data, and I talk about what I know. Okay. Like what I do know. And it is interesting. All this stuff is interesting, but I do interview a lot of people, including Evan and Steven Strong. Okay. And so just meeting them and getting to talk to them expanded my consciousness, and it made me dig a little deeper into some of this stuff. And you start realizing, like, none of this history that, like with the discovery of America, for instance, Well, I'll be darned if a guy back in 1170 didn't already come and, do what Christopher Columbus did. I mean, centuries before, and encountered a race of moon-eyed, pale-skinned, little like Caucasian-looking albino people. Okay, and that the Cherokee actually ran them off. Okay, because that's just not what I was taught. And so it's told to us as a legend, like it's just a legend, it's a myth, it's in mythology. I don't think so. I think it really happened. But that's just me. That's me personally. That's what I think.
And it's interesting because, when you say that, it's like it's a repetition of what happened in yea gone yonder years. But that's what the Lucy's do. They don't have any creative imagination. So they will take a template and work it to death. They will just kind of like color it differently. Okay. So you're kind of having the same thing repeat itself. I mean, we're doing the show with Bryce on the channel on my Monday. Bryce is the history nerd. We love Bryce. She's the best.
I love Bryce.
Ever here. So it's like it's good to do the research on these things as well. And we're realizing how much of history is repeating itself and how much of what happened way gone yonder years ago is actually repeating itself now. And it's the same bloodlines, actually, if you're just looking at the politics and stuff, and the monarchies and stuff like that. It's the same bloodlines over and over and over and over again, when you start doing the bloodline research. And these are the ones that are hiding this information and abusing this planet, basically. So it's good to get the information out there for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, someone's saying the Vikings were in America, and that's true. We have ancient Egyptian settlements here. Okay, ancient Egyptian settlements, and Bryce and I have had a discussion about this before, about the active cover up of all of these settlements that have been here, including the Egyptian settlement at the Grand Canyon, which is out west. The man that discovered the caverns and the caves where the ancient Egyptian settlement was out there, he was sent there by the Smithsonian to go find it. And he did. So that tells me the Smithsonian was fully aware. There were people fully aware that we had ancient Egyptians there. I do believe that those were actually the offspring of Cleopatra and Mark Antony, I think. Their sons came here after they died, I think, to flee persecution and stuff. And I think that's the story behind it, from what I understand. But I've also been told that there are currently there's currently people living in that same cavern cave. It's huge. It's not just like a little cave. They hold tens of thousands of people. Okay.
Yes.
Or more.
Yes. They've got, I know on my shows with Jessie in the past as well, she will talk about these underground cities, and speaking about the Vikings, their heaven is Valhalla, right? As well. And there's an underground city called Valhalla. And isn't it interesting? There's an area in Pretoria in South Africa that, now remember, in the apartheid heyday, South Africa had a very incredibly strong military. And there's an area called Valhalla in Pretoria where all this military shit was going on. Sorry, guys. So it's interesting, talking about that as well. And I just think it's interesting with the Vikings, the runes, blonde hair, blue eyes. I don't know. It just seems to be a little bit of a maybe part of their DNA as well. I think we all have such a merry mix of DNA and such a merry mix of everything that's walked here before us. So that's what I think what makes us quite unique.
Oh,
just
yeah.
A combination of everything, which is amazing because it means anything is possible. If we have DNA of anything and everything that has existed before us, right? And I'm not sure it was. Someone said that it was, human being is, I think, created from an external source or something like that. Who really and truly knows? I believe we are seeded from our forefathers. Mm-hmm. Of course, they are alien. Who they are exactly, I think remains to be seen. We've got to look at the ones that are fighting us right now and fighting for us. You know, we get the very amazing ones of light, right, that are supporting humanity, and then of course you get these ones that are trying to take us back to hell with them. So we got to figure out where we want to be. Yeah, I've got 13% Viking blood in me. Can you believe it? 13%. That's a lot of Viking blood.
Oh yeah. Well, I've actually been told my whole life that I am descended from Welsh Vikings. Okay, so
Wow.
and we did the ancestry, and it is true. It is very true. Yeah. So I have a little Viking son. I accept it. I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
the warrior.
He's a warrior for sure. But you know, even in the Grand Canyon, where the ancient Egyptian settlement is said to be there, we have. It looks like a sphinx. Okay, there's sphinxes. There are pyramids there. They look like they're ancient ruins. Okay, and we're told they're just mountains and mesas and plateaus and whatever they got out there. But they actually have it's called the Temple of Set. They've named like landmarks out there: the Temple of Isis, the Temple of Set, different sphinxes and stuff. So it's like right there. It's hidden right in front of our eyes. It's right there. You just have to open your eyes, open your third eye to all this. Okay, it's and not to mention what Bryce has talked about before, and I've talked about this as well. Are some of these lakes, the man-made lakes that we have here in the southeastern United States? A lot of those are covering up ancient Egyptian settlements and things that we're not supposed to know about.
I believe that. And then again, you know, when we're speaking, and Caleb, I mean, his whole series on the Shinkana is talking about that as well. These complete different life forms. They've got their own solar system. They've got their own cities. Sorry, that's where I was going, but I digressed early on with the Valhalla. And that's why I was saying I just find it interesting. You know, the Viking heaven is Valhalla, and there's an underground city called Valhalla as well, you know, and hey, we have Valhalla here too. So to me, there has to be some correlation. I don't know. You know, I look at these things and I'm going, okay, there's a piece, there's a piece, there's a piece. How do they all come together? You know, and at the moment, it's like I see the pieces and I'm still trying to fit them together because I like to see how the flow occurs. To me, I want to see the truth. I want to see the truth of my human ancestry. You know, the true, where do I come from? I want to know that. And I don't care where I come from. I'm here. I am who I am now. But it'd be interesting to know who our descendants really are. And, you know, what is really happening with all these, you know, and I honestly believe when we come across these races, if you want to call them that, I don't know, species, what do we call them? Like a race of light beings, you know, and that really for me is amazing because I do believe as much as what there's hell going on Earth, and it's a very, very tangible thing, you know, on Earth being a third dimensional planet, we experience these things physically. So you talk to anyone who survived SRA, I mean, there's no worse hell than that, in my opinion. There's no worse hell than what they've been through. So that's experiencing on a very physical, tangible, painful, traumatic level. But then we have to understand the other side of that is ethereal. So we're not going to always see it in the way we see the physical pain and these physical nasty things that they bring out of the portals, half man, half beast, half fish, half dinosaur, whatever it is that they've created in these underground facilities, because they do that. That's what hell is about. You know, they just want to be as depraved as possible. But, you know, there's a lot of the other stuff as well. That we don't see because it's not physical, it's not visible to the human eye, and that's what we've got to become conscious of. We've got to, and as you say, we've got to start using the third eye. We've got to start looking beyond the veils. That's going to be our way out. If we want to get out of the matrix, we've got to start using this body. Your body is such an intelligent vehicle. It is your spaceship, in inverted commas. You're not going to get picked up by the Pleiades, I promise. You're not. Even though they may have some of their DNA in you, right? But your body is designed to heal itself.
Yes, and to be an antenna and to take in information and to, we're all like tuning forks. Okay, our bodies are
Exactly.
tuning forks. And whenever and that's why I'm always encouraging everyone to heal, okay, to go through a healing journey, do your shadow work.
Yeah. And
Be the best version of you, because when you go out in public or you go anywhere, you just sit in your house, you're vibrating, you're putting off a vibration, and everyone is affected by that. And that's if you're in a bad mood, or if you're mad at somebody, or you're thinking negative thoughts, that affects everybody within a certain radius around you.
and mostly you, because what you put out is what you attract. Duh. So when you are putting out all these negative vibes and you attract all the bad mood neighbors, you don't be surprised. Okay, it's you. It's a reflection of what you're doing. But it's so true to do the shadow work, right? Because that's going to give you your discernment. If you're full of monkey mind and you're full of pain and you're full of trauma and you're trying to be aligned and move through the shadows, I mean, you can't be all gunged up with all sorts of negative things. You can't, because energy is energy. So it's true. You have to align. You have to see what it is you need to see. That's what these times are calling for. They're calling for us to wake the F up. We've got to wake up and see what's around us and not take everything as fear porn. It's freaking scary. I mean, there's not even a question around that. When you see a 20-foot giant hovering above you, I mean, hello, that's no fun. But if you're aware that it's happening and these things are coming in and you have your wits about you, you know what to do, At least it doesn't come as a double whammy, right?
Right. And I think that's where you and I step in, and Caleb and other people, our other friends that have shows and podcasts and stuff, is that, a lot of us have experienced some really weird, dark stuff. And, but we're able to talk about it, to inform the public about these things and the things that we know exist, the things that are out there. Because a lot of other people have experienced the same things that we have, especially when I'm experiencing Bigfoots and cryptids. I was actually going to start talking about reptilians a while ago, because we also have reptilians underground as well. You talk about, you said Valhalla, but you go underground. I mean, it's like hell down there. And we've got serpents running around, allegedly eating humans and stuff down there. So that would be considered hell in my book.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's just like, it's the fallen. We've got to think about this, But then we are also part of the fallen, aren't we? So, I think right now, I mean, if we, really, we're living in a underground being fallen. So what we really have to do is find our way out of this hell, honestly. And the only way out is to be aware, be observant, don't have fear, align with God, with source.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of what Caleb said. Caleb was in my chat that night that I was talking about the Moon-Eyed people, and he had mentioned the word the Forsaken. He said, right. And I remember him talking about that the last time I was here with you and Caleb, and I think I'm not exactly sure what the Forsaken are, other than people that live underground, I believe. He was also saying that the Moon-Eyed people are slaves of the Draconiphil, I think is what he said.
Draconiphil, I think it is. Wow, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Slaves or children, I'm wondering, because when you're looking at bloodlines or whatever, descendants, are they possibly of the same lineage? I don't know. These are things we've all got to look at. But I know he has spoken a bit about that on the chat, on the shows before. He's mentioned the Forsaken, and if I remember correctly, and I'm not 100% correct, I'm like 90% correct, so don't shoot me if I'm not, but I do believe that the Forsaken are homunculi that are created obviously by the nasty alchemists to create these babies that they grow from dirty DNA, and then, of course, connect them with the spirits, the Raphaim spirits, as I call them, the Raphis, and then they become a slave nation. So they're not free. They then become a slave nation for whatever is controlling them. And if you're in hell, I mean, you know, that can't be fun. It's all about control. It's all about, you know, separation. It's all about pain. It's poverty. It's weirdness. I don't know. You know, I mean, maybe to them we're weird. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. So it could be. I love to discuss these things. I've got an open mind. You know, I don't. I like to take a topic and pick at it. And then we can open things up and see what anyone else. I don't know if anyone else in the chat has anything to say. I haven't even been checking the chat. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I've been talking about the homunculus quite a bit lately. I never even heard of the homunculi before, and we were talking about artificial humans in the Cabbage Patch, the Cabbage Patch Kids. You and we've talked about that before, and in the homunculus, and I tied it in also to the mandrakes. Okay, and Dennis is in the chat. Let's see, Hunting the Shadows. That's Dennis. He comes on my show and co-hosts with me a lot. And we were talking about. Hey, Dennis. We're talking about the mandrakes. And what are they called? There's something else. There's like these little nymphs, and tree nymphs, I think, is what they're called. And the Neripon. The Neripon. That's another. It's almost like a plant-based like nymph or something, but they look like little humans and stuff. And I don't know. I think that a lot of these things are just connected, and there's like magic involved.
The little tree sprites.
Yes,
because I think yeah, little tree sprites, tree spirits. Wow.
Well, there's actually two of them that are in a monastery in Thailand. They have two Neripons. And yeah, you can find pictures of it online. They look like little men. There he is, the dryads. That's right. Hey, Dennis. The dryads.
Wow. So are they, I mean, because from what I understand of the nature kingdom, they're basically neutral. So you can't really figure out whether they're good or bad. So they can go either way. It's very trickery. I mean, we know nature spirits are completely full of trickster activities, right? And they can range from what the little fairies to nasty creatures of the night.
Yeah. Well, there's such a wide variety, and I don't know. The fae are not my forte, let's just say, but they're Dennis's forte. He's really good at talking about those. But yeah, they can be very tricksterish, and they can either lead you to help if you need help with something, or they can change out their relatives with your baby, like changelings and stuff, and or just do things.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, it's exactly. I mean, I guess, we live in the dimension of free will and choice, right? So they get to do either way, just like we are. We are also born, I guess, neutral. When you're born in, you can decide which way. And usually a baby's upbringing is going to determine a large factor of how it gets out there. But yeah, so I think it really is interesting times indeed. We shall see. We shall see. Yeah.
Well, because everything that we've been taught is a fairy tale, I think, is real. A lot of it.
Yeah, sure, it is, definitely. I mean, we know, actually, I was speaking with Lynn Monet, who's another guest that I also interviewed. It'd be interesting to have you on with her sometime, because she does a lot with the realm of fae and stuff like that, and she literally sees the fairies as well. She has such a open connection with them. She connects with them, she talks to them, they live with her. So it's very interesting. And she'll talk about this one in her house that had a rock, and her sister or something had moved the rock, and that little gnome, goblin, whatever, caused such chaos in that house until he got his rock back. And the minute he had his rock, he was happy. And in that rock, it's like his computer. He keeps all his information. It's insane. So now he's as happy as a pig in poo. He's got his rock and he lives peacefully.
Oh my gosh. That's why people say don't take things from certain places and stuff. Because you never know. Like the little gnomes will come and take vengeance on you. Okay. And I take quartz from the places that I go and research. A lot of times I'll if I find a beautiful piece of quartz and it calls to me, I'll stick it in my pocket and take it home. Now I don't know. I've been told to be careful about that.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree with it. I agree. And you know, people are with my crystals. The only crystals I really have are the ones that I get from Namibia and Zambia, and they are both high. And I'm going to show you one. They are both high mining. High mining countries, and like you can see it by, it's like a raw amethyst.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
yeah, so they're not washed or anything, but because of the mining, they get blown out of the earth. So that's when then I use them often for healing, because they're very good healing crystals, actually. The ones that have been hurt, because they're out there. It's amazing. And it's so true. And that's a thing, you know, if we go back to the beginning of time, basically, the nature spirits were here with us on Earth, right? They worked with us. They worked very closely with humans until we started destroying, until obviously the negative forces took over and started destroying the planet. So that's when they're with poisons and destruction and mining and God knows what all else. So that's when they left. And now they're coming back again. That's what we're hearing, obviously, as the balance is starting to set itself in.
Oh yeah. And I feel bad. People are always asking, well, why did Bigfoots not show themselves? Well, they probably don't appreciate what humans are doing to their forest, you know, where they live. We're destroying everything. Okay. Humans are not their friend. Okay. Not most of them. So I get it.
That's the thing. You know, I mean, if we look at us humans, I mean, we can be very, very destructive. But there again, is it really human force? Yes, it is our nature, because they can't manipulate us with something we don't have. That's already in there. I mean, it's like the same as hypnosis. They can't hypnotize you to do anything that is not innately maybe something that's already there, right?
Right. Yeah.
Don't murder your father.
Exactly.
You might have that desire, right? Yeah, right. You hear these stories a lot. I watch these crime series. They're crazy, man. I wonder, I mean, now that I know what I know, I'm like, and there's so much, you know, especially when you're looking at these crime stories and stuff like that, you're seeing so much spell casting, witchcraft involved with these murder cases. I'm like, now I see it as obvious as day. You can see by the way they question people, you know, and I'm wondering, like, what forces are involved, because there's always these external nasty forces doing their thing. Yeah. But yeah, we need to clean it up.
Yeah, it's interesting when you change your perspective, when you start to, you know, to wake up and your mind's expanding and you see things like that we would not have normally seen. And I have to be really careful about watching crime shows, because I used to love them. And I would watch the show. It was called The First 48. And I loved watching that show. It was real life homicide scenes where people had really died, and they filmed everything from the first second that they got the call at 911 until, you know, 48 hours later, whether they solved it or not. And I loved it so much. But then I said, it started showing up on my doorstep, and they started filming on the street that I lived on. And I felt like I had manifested that. And so I thought, well, I better stop watching that show now, because your mind is a powerful thing. Okay. And when you set your focus on something and you get really into it, it will start manifesting in your life. And I did not want to end up on an episode of that show.
That is so true. And I have to again say, Dennis, I agree. Dennis has got a comment here, which witchcraft can be used as direct weaponry. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I live in South Africa. How do you think they try and get to me? But it don't work so nicely for them. I'm still around. And you know what? I've just turned 4. My channel just turned 4 yesterday.
Congratulations.
And I've been struck down. I've been dragged myself up. I've had so many of my stuff. They demonetize me every second day. I'm being demonetized. But yeah, we still are, guys. And I want to just say thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Yeah, man, oh man, it's been a tough journey, but we do it. Yeah. Anyway.
And you're doing awesome too. You have a wonderful audience, by the way, and a great chat every time.
Aren't they the best? And I mean, I love it because I know your chat is also the best, but I see there's a lot of the same people as well that go to the chat. So it's really cool, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And I want Dennis must come talk to us sometime.
Yeah, we got to get Dennis on your show for sure. He's amazing.
Dennis is coming. Will you do that? Thanks. Okay. Jessica, it's been awesome to have you. Thank you so much again for joining me. And I look forward to 2 weeks' time again. And then we'll have Caleb on with you and talk about things. And Dennis, we'd love to invite you as well. So I'm making it public and you can't say no now.
Yes, Dennis is coming on. Okay, I've already told him all about you. He knows. We'll get Dennis on. He's an I mean, I know they say there are no experts in some of these fields that we're in, but he's my go-to person for like demonology. I mean, you and he would have, you and him would have a great conversation together. He's really into the occult as well, and cryptids and everything. He's an all-in-one kind of guy. I love him to death.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. Dennis, we're going to invite you and hopefully you'll be joining us soon. And on that note, everybody, hopeful, we shall bid you a beautiful, in my case, night. I think it's 7:14 p.m. now. I really, there you see Dennis, I think he said yes. He said little heart. Do you think that's yes?
He's got a heart. Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yeah. I'll bring him in. I'm just kidding. I'll drag him.
Dennis, thank you. Yeah, well, definitely, that's so cool because I love the fact that there's so many people and I say experts because I do, like you, Caleb, Dennis. Oh, I watch you guys a lot. Not your lives, unfortunately, and it's so good that this is because it's exactly the information we're talking about. You guys are bringing it up as well. So it is stuff we need to be aware of. So God bless you, everybody. I say thank you so much while my hair's sticking up. Take care of you, and I shall see you tomorrow. It's Double Trouble with Jesse. Yep, we've got 2 shows with Jesse, and then with Bryce in the evening with Fancy. We're talking about the Gypsy Rose case again. So come and join us for that. That's a good one too. We delving into there as well. All these shenanigans that's been happening since forever and a day. Take care, everybody. God bless you all. See you soon. Bye, Jessica.
Bye.